Hey Tex, this is Lauren again. This is one more video tutorial on when your exams are going to InterRadiology. So this video tutorial is for the X-ray or ultrasound techs that are used to using InterRadiology. I'm going to kind of run through things a little quicker here because at this point you've probably already watched the other tutorials, but I'll remind you of some stuff as I go through this one. So for InterRadiology and for any other patients or anybody that's reading, you just want to make sure that you are checking the information before you start creating the document, the requisition, the rec report, whichever one you're creating. So I just want to go through and make sure that I have InterRadiology as my referring physician, as my transcriptionist, and just double check all the other information here. We also want to open up our study info if we need to add any additional notes on the patient after you've completed the exam. Maybe the patient was uncooperative or you had a limited study or anything like that. You really want to utilize these clinical notes area before you open up the document. So also you would want to adjust this. If you did a limited study, then maybe you need to change the number to 2 view or 1 view instead of 2 views if you're an X-ray tech. And then again, you want to make sure you're choosing from the drop-down list when entering a patient for the study description, because this is going to generate on the report. It's going to help the correct report or requisition generate for you, because it's going to put your modality in there for the type of exam that you're doing. So from here, if we're all good and we like all the information in here, I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to get ready to create my requisition now. So I'm going to look over here to my documents, and it doesn't matter if it's white or blue, it doesn't matter what color it is. White means that there's nothing entered in there, but at this point you may have already had the order or something else scanned attached in there for you, so it might be blue. But either way, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Okay, so it automatically opens for me to the templates area. It may open to another one for you, but if it does, just make sure you click on templates. And you're going to have a couple options that come up here depending on if you're an ultrasound tech or an X-ray tech, or if this is an ultrasound exam or a different type of exam, X-ray exam. It doesn't matter. It's going to create these options for different templates in the system here depending on what type of exam and what kind of tech you are in the system. Okay, so we're going to look at the InterRadiology requisition this time. The last tutorial we were looking at the X-ray or ultrasound rec report. Now we're looking at the InterRadiology requisition. So this is when you're sending your images out to InterRadiology and getting things read there. This is the type of requisition you're going to fill out. Now this is going to look slightly different from X-ray versus ultrasound, but this tutorial is fine for both of you. Either type of tech role, whichever you are, this is going to work for you. It'll just look a little bit different for the ultrasound techs because this is what a rec for the X-ray looks like, since ultrasound doesn't require transportation or number of views. Okay, so as we can see on this one, it still pulled the correct information, the patient information, the referrer information, the correct header up here. And this is an X-ray report or requisition. So this one does have the physician signature area on it. The ultrasound ones, as the ultrasound techs are aware now, they're not going to have the physician signature on this area. They're only required for mobile radiography for X-ray. So that's why the X-ray techs are only going to see this part for X-rays. Okay, so from here, if this is the rec that I want to choose, I'm going to go ahead and double click on it over here. I have to double click on it before I start editing anything over here. So I'm going to double click. It says loading, so I want to give it a second to load. And now we have our InterRadiology requisition titled up here. Okay, so now we're good to go. So I reviewed all my information. The patient information is correct. The referrer information should be correct. It's going to be really important that you do get the correct doctor in on this one. On the other ones, the transcriptionist would be maybe editing this, but obviously a transcriptionist, when you're sending it to InterRadiology, isn't going to be doing any editing on this area. So you need to make sure that you are getting the correct doctor in here. If there is a doctor, fix me in this area. So you would just highlight it, and you could type whatever you need to type here. Dr. So-so, we'll put that there, and you just want to make sure that it is the correct, try to get the first and last name of the doctor in this area. this is going to be sent to this referring physician. If you're doing x-rays, this is going to be sent to that referring physician to get their signature at some point. So you really want to make sure that everything is filled out correct here and looks good. Okay, so from here, I'm going to skip down to the exam information, and I'm going to fill out the requisition here. Okay, so for the date of service, I'm going to click on this area, and then I'm going to click on the drop-down arrow. I can click on today, or I can click on the date up here on the calendar. It's going to put the date of service in there, and I'm going to tab over to the next area. In the next area, we're going to put in military time, the time that we started the exam with the patient. So we'll say that this is after hours, so we'll put 1800 down here. And then the minutes spent with the patient, again, just a reminder, this is how many minutes you were actually doing the exam and spending time with the patient. This is really important for facilities at this point to have this type of documentation for how much time a vendor or an individual has spent with the patient in their facility. So we'll put, as an example, we'll put 30 minutes was spent with this patient, and then we tab to the next area. We can either delete this and leave it blank, or we can add additional notes to patient on cooperative. Again, the patient on cooperative pulled from the clinical notes area under study info. That's why it automatically pulled up here. If I didn't have anything in that area, then it would just say click here to enter text, and I could either delete it or I could put something in here. Since I don't have any comments for this patient, I could just put NA, or I could put none. Okay, so then I'm going to tab to the next area, and you want to make sure, the way I just did it, if you tab to the next area and it's highlighting the entire thing and it's not getting to the click here to enter text, that's a problem. You want to make sure that you're in the entering text area. Otherwise, it might delete the whole thing. If you are highlighted over here, and if I start typing something, then it's going to delete that entire area. So we just want to undo that. Okay, so back to this. We're at tech initials, so I'm going to put my initials here, and that's just making sure that you have reviewed this, that you're the one that's filling this out, you're the one that did the exam. And now we're going to tab to the next area. Again, for review order, you can check this area by pressing the space bar on your keyboard, or you can do it by clicking in this area with your mouse. We'll tab to the next one, and we're going to put number of exams done 1, number of views done, we'll put 2. Transportation, we'll put that we just did 1 patient in this facility. Again, that these 2 areas are for x-ray only. And from here, you're basically done, because this is an InterRadiology one, similarly to the other ones. But at this point, you see down here, similarly, again, to the EKG tutorial that I showed you, you're only going to see this diagnostic final report for exam, where exams will be received separately, notification here. Again, that's because the report is going to be generated in InterRadiology. So that note is going to be on here because you're going to fax this requisition copy to the facility as soon as you're out of here, out of this area, and you have it saved, just so they have this information and they have the time that you spent with the patient and any other notes you might have on the patient. We want to make sure that they have this requisition no matter what, whether it's in InterRadiology or RamSoft or whether it's an EKG. It doesn't matter what it is now. We want them to have a copy of this requisition. Okay, so if I'm all done with this, I'm going to click on Save up at the top left here. If I need to edit something because I realized I forgot to, I'm going to click on Update, and then I can update it and it becomes interactive again, and then I would just click on Save again. Okay, so from here, you're going to want to fax it to the facility. Now you may have to exit out of here and then open the document back up in order to be able to fax it. Okay, so I'm just going to do that just for practice sake. Okay, so now this is blue because I generated a report. So I'm going to click on this. Okay, I'm going to go to my patient documents. I'm going to click on this InterRadiology Req. And it has everything that I just filled out in it. And at this point I want to right click, send to, fax to new recipient, and I want to type the name of the facility here. Okay, so we'll click, as an example, St. Mary's Asbury, Home East, Unit D. It puts the fax number in there, and then you can always, this is highlighted automatically, so this is just a side tip. You can right-click and you can copy, and then you can right-click up here and you can paste in case you're not already doing that. And then we can click on Send. So at that point, it's going to send your requisition copy to the facility, and we're going to have this notification down here so they know that the final report is going to be coming shortly. Okay, so I'm going to close out of here, and at this point, you know your normal routine of working out of InterRadiology, so you would be working out of InterRadiology. You would probably right-click and move this to the InterRadiology status. Most of us are doing the same process across the board with that. So if you do have any more questions about any of these tutorials or anything about this process, we want to make sure you feel really comfortable with it. So feel free to ask myself or your manager if you do have any questions at all. We're going to take some time over the next couple weeks to get you guys familiar with this and this process for all the different areas. We think that you're going to eventually, come to like it. Initially, hopefully it won't be too challenging for anybody, but if you do have any difficulties, now's the time to talk to us and make sure that you understand it fully. And I'm going to leave it at that, guys. I hope you enjoyed these tutorials, and I hope it helped you out with learning how to do this going forward. Thanks. Have a good one.